So, ladies, I have some bad news for you, and you're going to have to accept that this is an immutable law of nature that even the world's most beautiful women come up against. You will grow old, and men will lose interest in you. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is a fact of life. It is inevitable. As Paulina Poroskova found out, and the Times published an article on, and I thought we'd go through it because there's a lot here that younger ladies can learn from and should learn from her experience. Because, as they say, Paulina Poroskova was once the world's highest paid model, but as she hits her 50s, she says she is suddenly invisible. She's now 56 and leading a new wave of older women taking their place in the spotlight and on the catwalk and flaunting it on Instagram in her bikini. Growing old disgracefully as a cope.
Grandma, put it away, please.
We'll get to that, actually.
No.
She says, I am now completely invisible. I walk into a party, I try and flirt with guys, and they will just walk away from me mid-sentence to pursue someone 20 years younger. I'm very single. I'm dressed up. I've made an effort for nothing. She got divorced in 2018, and her ex-husband died the following year. So she is single. But look at the entitlement on show there.
Yeah.
I got dressed up. I've made an effort. It's like, yeah, but you're also nearly 60.
Yeah. Everyone's constantly making an effort of some form. That doesn't entitle anybody to anything.
Yeah, and they're going after 36-year-old women, are they? Are they?
Yeah.
Probably a bit younger than that.
I mean, I can say that I'm sure she's looking fine for a 56-year-old woman, but when you're that old, beauty doesn't really have much to do with it if you're a young man out on the town.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? What man is going to be interested in dating a 56-year-old woman if he's not in his 50s or 60s himself?
Yes.
That's the problem that she's having.
Maybe you'll be able to find a lovely 90-year-old benefactor.
Possibly. But the thing is, the problem she's running into is that she's no longer the desirable young woman that she once was, and she's having trouble adjusting to this new reality as an old woman. And she should be doing the things that old women do rather than posing in bikini pictures on Instagram. Again, don't get me wrong. If this was my wife at 56, I'd be very happy, but it's not like a dating prospect.
Yeah, if you're on the dating scene and come across a 56-year-old woman, you just think, what went wrong?
Exactly. And so she should be doing the things that older women should be doing, which is taking care of their children and grandchildren.
I'm going to assume she has no children.
She's got 3 children.
Oh, really?
Yes, who are in their late 20s, early 30s.
Oh, God, Mum, please.
Yeah, exactly. Can you even imagine? It's, oh, God, how embarrassing. But anyway, have some dignity, for Christ's sake. But the article continues. Some women say it kicks in at 40, others when they finally let themselves go grey. Virginia Woolf described the phenomenon in Mrs. Dalloway in 1925, age 43. And in 2005, 47-year-old Kate Bush summed it up in How to Be Invisible with the lyrics, hem of an anorak, stem of a wallflower, hair of a doormat. The actresses whose roles dry up, the widows who left off their guest lists. Bar presence, network, social interactions diminished. The female invisibility cloak falls heaviest on those most used to being looked at, as well as, or instead of, listened to, and the time before it smothers you speeds up with every child you have. This is just inevitable.
Yeah.
This is every woman's future. You will get old and you will not be young and fertile, and men will not be staring at you in the street.
Sounds pretty depressing, to be honest.
Yes, but that's because they're not making preparations for that. Now, in previous eras, like your mother and grandmother have made preparations for this. They know that their mothers and grandmothers will have warned them, look, your beauty is a short window of your life, and then for the rest of your life, which will be the longest part of your life, you will not have that beauty. So make your preparations accordingly. Get yourself a husband, get yourself a family, get these close family relations and community relations for you to help people to be a part of their lives, because it's not just going to be the unvarnished attention that men give you on the street when you're a young woman. This is what they're saying, and this is inevitable. There is no escaping this. Even, like I said, the most beautiful women in the world have this happen to them. So don't think you're exempt from it. So use your youth to lock all of this down, to get your ducks in a row before this aging process catches up with you. So Nancy Pachana, 56, professor of psychology at the University of Queensland and co-director of its Aging Mind Initiative, and I'm going to guess childless, says between 50 and 80, between 50 and 80, people report feeling 10 years younger than their chronological age. So you might easily feel 40, but it's as though you no longer exist. So you might like, well, I feel, life. I feel like I'm
Age is
younger.
just a number.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, which is a concerning statement in and of itself. But you might feel like you're only 40 when you're 50, but at the end of the day, people walking around can see you.
Yeah.
And they will make their own judgments.
Qualitative data like, oh, I feel this way doesn't change the reality of the matter. I feel 30. Well, yeah, you're 50 though.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter. Other people are looking at you and they can tell that you're not 30. It's a slow fade, she says. Like a boiled frog, you don't know until you're gone. It was around the same time my marriage fell apart. My husband was no longer interested in me, and started looking around. I realized I was invisible to the population at large. It made me feel really terrible about myself. Right, so it's not just about being good looking when you're young. It's also about being the sort of person your husband loves. It's all about getting those emotional connections, like actually forming a bond, not just being a trophy wife. This, again, doesn't last.
I do feel kind of bad, though, hearing that the husband was no longer interested, not knowing much more about the relationship beyond that. Yeah. If it falls out of love, then it's pretty nasty.
That's unfortunate, yeah. But again, a loving relationship is something you have to nourish. Both parties have to do that. You can't just expect him to be attracted to you in your 50s like he was when you were in your 20s. You have to work on yourself.
And if she was behaving like this during the relationship, I can understand how he might have lost a bit of interest there.
So be warned, ladies, is what I'm saying. They say the only way to gain visibility in our society is to look younger. If you look your age, nobody will listen to you. And if you want to be heard, you can't look your age. And the thing is, that's not true, but it shows you the way that these people are looking at life. There are other ways to be recognized in society. Be interesting, be knowledgeable, be funny, be engaging. But this model, relied on being young and attractive. Stunningly beautiful, in fact.
Oh, yeah.
She didn't cultivate a personality.
Those pictures of her from back in the 80s, she's looking great.
Exactly. And the thing is, I was looking for this article that I read a few years ago about this actress at a film festival, like the Cannes Film Festival or something, right? And she was complaining how she had reached her 60s or something like that. And she was complaining how when she was a young, beautiful woman, the entire room used to stop. And like when she walked into it, and there was this great deal of deference. But now that doesn't happen. That happens now to older actors like George Clooney, because they have gravitas. They've cultivated this sense of importance. It's like, yeah, but you could have done the same thing, but you didn't because you didn't need to. Whereas a young man has to cultivate like a sense of gravitas because no one cares.
It's the difference when some women will kind of, in acting circles, will accept what's going to happen when they get older and will graciously fall into the role of grandmother or something in films.
Helen Mirren,
Well, Helen Mirren is a good example, but she's also a unique example because she was very well desired when she was young, and she's quite notorious for still getting nude.
Sure, but she's also interesting in interviews.
Yes.
She's cultivated a personality rather than just being an attractive woman. And so when she loses the youth and beauty, she's still a desirable person to talk to.
Yes,
right?
And she's not above taking roles that depict her as something other than beautiful young woman.
Exactly. Didn't she play the Queen?
I think she might have played the Queen. I know, isn't she playing an old Jewish woman from the 1940s in a new film that's got her in trouble, of course?
Yeah, of course. But the point is she's accepted her age and is accepting and growing into those roles rather than posting bikini shots on Instagram. Although, like you say, she still does stuff like that. But anyway, that's why Poroskova has taken to Instagram since her divorce and built up a base of almost 700,000 people. They comment on her bikini shots, nudes, yes, nudes, and no makeup selfies in their thousands, although not always kindly.
Who'd have thought the internet would attract negativity? My God.
There are those, mostly men, but not exclusively, who tell her to keep house and her clothes on instead. Lol.
Not exclusively. That's doing a lot of heavy lifting, isn't it?
That is. So basically the internet's like, Granny, put your clothes back on and go look after your grandchildren. She says, I started posting the same kind of pictures that have been taken of me since I was 15. I look good. I didn't realize it would be shocking for a 50-something woman to pose in those same bikinis from 30 years ago that still fit. It's okay to ogle someone who could be your daughter, but not mature women who know themselves and are most likely to be way better at sex. It's like, that's just not what people are looking for. It's just not the station in life that you have achieved. Getting 56 is not something that everyone does. And so you need to accept your role as a venerable elder now, not as an inexperienced, beautiful young woman, because you're not, and your life has to change. She says, do I feel sexier? Oh my God, yes. But what I am not anymore is feminine. I am not a fluttery, vulnerable creature. I am an active participant, an instigator. I know what I like and how I work. I like to have fun. I know what I'm doing. That really makes them run away. Then it's not working for you.
It's incredible that she seems to actually be right on the money
Yeah.
on why it is that people aren't attracted to her anymore. And she's still going, but why?
But aren't I entitled to them being attracted to me? This is weird for her. But I mean, I can only imagine the level of interest she's got from the opposite sex, because, being a regular looking guy, I haven't got that level of interest from the opposite sex, but she was the world's most highly paid supermodel. So it would have been wherever she went, men would have been turning their heads and stuff like this. It's not like that when I go somewhere, women aren't just like, So I don't know what it must have been like to have had that level of interest to just suddenly disappear.
Yeah, that must be heartbreaking when you've based your entire existence around it.
Exactly. But that's the point, and that's the lesson that I think that other women should be learning, is that if this can happen to her, it will definitely happen to you. But anyway, she says, I understand the impulse to tweak things to gain confidence because you are becoming invisible. But once you do that, you're actually servicing exactly what you're trying to oppose. We need to stand up and insist on not being invisible. I wish there were more women who dared to age. So look, there's nothing you can do. You can't suddenly reformat society and have a social cause. Men aren't chatting me up in bars anymore because I'm 56. This is an injustice.
I'm sorry you're not Benjamin Button and just reverse aging. That's not how it works. Everyone ages.
Yeah, you can demand attention from men, but you're not going to get it. This is life. They carry on saying, you might not feel like taking lessons on aging from someone whose face once earned them $6 million for a single Estee Lauder contract.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Someone who is inarguably astonishingly beautiful and always will be. And she says, I get this a lot. It's easy to age when you look like you. Okay, that's fair. I was once celebrated for how I look, but age is a great equalizer, and when we are now all on the same trajectory, downhill. Whether you start higher up or not, we are all in decline. The fact is, I am as invisible as any other 56-year-old woman walking into a party.
Well, that might be because people generally assume if you're a 56-year-old woman that if you're not with anyone, you've got someone waiting for you at home.
And also because why would younger men be interested in a 56-year-old woman no matter how beautiful she is?
There's that too.
But I mean, well, the thing is, your beauty is tied to your fertility, which is tied to your youth. If you lose these things, you're no longer attractive to men. You're not going to get the kind of attention that you received when you were young and fertile. That's just the way that nature works, unfortunately. She says, there are more older women in the public space, says one psychotherapist author, Susie Orbach, 75. That has become a prerequisite. When we used to be able to ignore them, but sex is still the sell. Our voices are still there, but we are invisible physically. So, okay, but what value are you providing? Why would people want to pay attention to you? Normally, this should be your family and friends that would be paying attention to you. You would not, it was always older women engage in the social role, right? They're the ones who make sure, local clubs are running and things like that, nurseries and things, all of the things that in a social setting people did, because they were the ones most concerned about that. And that was the sort of social role they fell into. They weren't the providers and they weren't now attractive young women, so they had to do something. But what are these women doing? Being vain.
Well, yeah, they're just going around going, why aren't you objectifying me?
Exactly.
And then when they were younger, they were probably walking around going, stop objectifying me.
Yeah. And so why is this coming up now? Why is this a problem? Well, as the Times tell us, there are more people in the UK aged 50 to 54 than there are under 4, and more than half of them are female, as in most of them are female.
I mean, that on its own is not a great statistic to hear.
No, it's not.
Honest, not that many kids in that case.
I know, it's really concerning. In 2019, 20% of the UK population was over 65. So 1 in 5 people is over 65 in this country. That's mad, isn't it? And the number of people in this bracket has increased by 17% in 20 years. So again, nearly a fifth
So we've
bigger.
just got a rapidly aging population.
Oh yeah, it's something they keep talking about. But for some reason, we never go out of our way to point out that young ladies, you need to have a family. We need to have a family or else our civilization is literally going to collapse. And when you're like, yeah, but I'll just hire someone to look after me. It's like, yeah, but you're assuming there will be a someone there. And if you didn't have the kids who then have grandkids, then no one's going to be there to look after you.
Yeah. And to be fair, young men, we also need to hammer home. You should be having families as well.
Oh, absolutely.
You need two to make a pair, you know?
But I suspect that a lot of young men probably do want families. You know, I don't think that's actually a very hard sell to young men.
Yeah, there's some people that I know of my generation who are just like, why would you ever want kids? And it's like, because
Kids are great.
because it would bring some meaning to your life, maybe.
The dad's always the favorite with the kids as well.
Yeah,
like because you don't have to look after them all day. It's so much easier for you. Kids are great. Sorry, darling, by the way. But anyway, so they say in the same time, the rest of the population rose only 7%. The pattern here is here to stay. Our birth rate isn't high enough to counter the statistic skewing effect of greater longevity. And it's not just that like our birth rate isn't high enough. It's not high enough to counteract the death rate. I actually, just before the podcast went live, I saw an article from, I think it was the Times as well, that suggested that by 2030, the death rate will have surpassed the birth rate. And so any population growth that happens in this country will be through immigration.
Oh.
So there we go.
Well, it's ideal for leftists, isn't it?
Well, they love it, yeah, because they hate our country. But our female population is aging and not reproducing, is what we take away from this. Now, old, lonely women aren't getting the attention that they used to and have begun demanding it because they don't know what to do. Again, ladies, don't let this be you. You know, these aren't people who are happy in their lives because of the plans that they made. In the developed and developing world, says psychologist Nancy Pachana, people are living longer with better lives and more active years. Are they better lives, though? Many older people say they've finally come to understand their true selves, yet we warehouse them in nursing homes and expect them to get dressed up at the same time, sit in the room and watch the same TV shows. In the coming decades, people, particularly women, are going to rebel. And nobody's going to care because you're going to be invisible. You're not going to have a husband who cares. You're not going to have children who cares. No one cares because our culture venerates youth, something that you took advantage of in your youth. And it's interesting how this is only a problem now when you're getting older. Didn't complain about it then. It's just now. So anyway, she carries on talking about this, saying, well, look, as her ex-husband had said, she says, I was a trophy, but I didn't feel that way when I was with my husband. I felt so desired and loved, but when I lost his attention, his tenderness, his love, I realized that it might not have been the most healthy of relationships. When you're a treasured possession as opposed to a person who is loved, you don't grow old. You don't get to grow older. You have to stay the person they're obsessed with. It's like, well, maybe. I mean, I'm not going to comment on their relationship, of course. And she says, despite that, she didn't go down the surgery route. One Instagram post about facelifts, she says, well, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Instead, she posts selfies from the treatment chair where she has non-invasive plasma pen sessions, tightening ultrasound therapy and hydrofacials. So she's not doing like invasive surgery, but she's still doing all of the stuff.
Yeah, she's still doing something.
Desperately to retain her youth. It's over. She used to box, apparently, but hip arthritis means that she no longer can. She's got arthritis.
One of the other consequences of aging,
yes,
I suppose, right there.
Yes.
Yeah. Because sadly, you're not going to be as hip and flexible as when you were young, when you're in your mid-50s. That's just a fact of life.
Yes. You have to accept that this is just what happens to a human being. These days, apparently, she concentrates on Pilates and professes to have abs for the first time. So, okay, but this seems like diminishing returns, doesn't it? Like the more effort you put in, the less result you're going to get back. You know, it's clinging to a beauty that is just never coming back. You know, just you've got to accept this.
I respect staying in good health up until your later years. That's always a good thing. I'm not going to recommend people don't do that, but obviously you need to build some foundations for a deeper way to live.
And the problem, as she says, is vanity. She says, "Oh, I'm vain. I don't look good under bright lights these days. In fact, light plays a very big part in my life now." And she gets her 28-year-old son to basically bring her a ring light, which throws a softening halo over her features while they have this chat. I can't do an interview without it, she says.
So does her 28-year-old son just act as her butler?
I mean, maybe.
In her house or something? What are you still doing in your mum's house, mate?
But this is something that she needs to mature out of.
Yeah.
That's the point. She says, we are in a society set up for women who look like little girls, which you took advantage of with your career all throughout your life until you lost your looks, right? We need a collective movement to fight ageism, but that requires a bending of the sisterhood, which just hasn't happened. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen because the younger women, why would they care? They're like you were 30 years ago. Why would they care? We're pushing the boulder up the hill, says Porozgova. There's been an improvement in representation of everyone except older women, and it's because more of us are not offended. Instead of things that promise to erase our faces, we should be buying products advertised by women like ourselves. I'm sure the sales are just going to skyrocket.
And Goop sales explode.
Yeah, and so this just appears to be a brute fact of nature. As OkCupid and their data has shown, people's revealed preferences show that women reach peak attractiveness at 20 years old. So, and the cope from bustle.com here was hilarious as well.
Bustle.com, never heard of it.
Because it's a woman's.
I'm sure.
But they're not happy about this. They say, women over the age of 20. OkCupid has finally pulled together a study which explains why men now find you physically repulsive. Handy. The study, which OkCupid co-founder Christian Rudder put out in his book Dataclasm, Who We Are When We Think No One's Looking, as in he's talking about the revealed preferences of people who are messaging people on OkCupid. Reports show that while women on the site remain primarily attracted to men their own age as well up until their 40s, men stay attracted to 20-year-old women for pretty much their entire lives. And if you can scroll down a bit, John, you can see the graphs. Go down a bit.
I think I've seen this.
Yeah, so you can see women's age to dating preference correlates until it gets to sort of mid to late 40s, when the women are like, in their mid to late 40s. So it's pretty standard. But if you go down a bit to the men, when they're in their mid 40s, well, 24 is all right. But 20, 20, 20, 20, 20,
yeah.
20, 21, 20, 20, 20.
Yeah.
I mean, like the data is in.
It says it all.
The data is in. Right. And so this is something that they have to deal with. But I mean, they do have some points in here that aren't pure cope. So the important thing to note, they say, is that this reflects who's liking who, but not necessarily who they message. Because I'm sure a lot of 50-year-old guys don't just message 20-year-olds saying, do you want to go on a date?
You'd be surprised.
I would be surprised. I don't use dating sites.
Yes.
Because I'm married. But more importantly, these surveys chart the desires of every kind of guy in OkCupid. So, yeah, there are going to be some men who don't want 20-year-olds for various reasons. That's true. But most importantly, one of the things that changes most about dating as you age is the qualities you desire. Though many of us consider hotness a primary priority when dating in our late teens, as we get older, there generally comes a second to the kind of qualities to make a man someone you're able to spend the next 20 to 60 years around without constantly wanting to fake your own death. And men also are like this. So there we go. Even Bustle are like, yeah, okay, you're not as hot as you were when you're 20, but you can build up a personality. Be the sort of person that men want to be around. Their husband might want to spend his time with. Be nice, be caring, be compassionate, be funny, be witty. Be someone who is pleasant if you can't be someone who is 20.
I would also say find a man who is not going to be entirely superficial with you.
Yes, that too. So anyway, to summarize, ladies, this will happen to you. There's no escaping it. Prepare accordingly. All
right, then. Time to move on to the secret.
I love these add-ins and sections. This is reality. You've got to deal with it.
Here's I've got the facts and figures right here.
This is timeless. You can't escape this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
It is true, and it's just easily observable, and people just want to put the blinders on and ignore it.
Oh yeah, they can cope and pretend all they want, but it's just the case. Anyway.
If you want to see more from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to enjoy all of the premium content we have on the site, such as our premium book club. In this episode, Carl and Callum discuss the foundational text of British conservatism, Edmund Burke's Reflections on the Revolution in France. You can get access to all of our premium content with a bronze tier membership for just £5 a month. If you'd like to stay up to date with all the content we're putting out on the site, you can also follow Lotus Eaters on Getter at getter.com, and you can follow our individual writers and presenters. My page is up here. Thank you, and goodbye.